Welcome to our Coffee and Bites lecture. Today, Silvan Christen will introduce you to open knowledge maps.
My name is Silvan Christen and I am subject librarian for geography and geology here at the University Library. And today I will give you a short introduction into open knowledge maps. It is a useful tool to create visual overviews of research topics. We can say that there is sort of a discoverability crisis in research. So a significant share of the research outputs are not reused, even though they are more easily accessible due to the open access movement. And one of the main reasons for that are the tools we use for discovery. So these classic list-based approaches that you can see here, such as Google Scholar, might be not appropriate anymore for the millions of papers that are published each year. And I guess you all know that it's very hard to get an overview of a research topic, especially if you are new to a research field. And once you have it, it's also difficult to keep this overview. And you will probably do it like this. You choose a highly cited overview work, read through this one, follow the citations, follow the references, and then you probably go to the next paper. And with time and patience, you can so build a mental model, and you then know the most important topics, publications, and authors. But this needs much time. It needs weeks, if not months, before this mental model emerges. This problem and the discoverability crisis was the main motivation for open knowledge maps. They thought that they want to change the way we discover research. And they wanted to provide a link between discoverability on one side and accessibility of scientific knowledge. Open Knowledge Maps is a charitable nonprofit organization run by a team of volunteers based in Vienna, and it was founded in 2015. And their goal is, as I told you, is to dramatically improve the visibility of research outputs. And they want to do that not just for science, but also for other stakeholder groups in society. And they accomplish this with a visual interface to the scientific knowledge based on so-called knowledge maps. And open knowledge maps is based on the principles of open science. So content, data, and software are shared under an open license. And their goal is to create an inclusive platform and a sustainable platform that can be used by anyone, regardless of geography, of stakeholder group, and age. So they want to have no barriers to the knowledge maps. They have the goal to finance this collectively. So organizations are invited to become supporting members and to co-create the platform with them. And further developments will really depend on the funding they will get in the future. So on the number of organizations that will be part of the project. And as I told you in the beginning, Open Knowledge Map is a visual search engine for research. So instead of lists, users can create these knowledge maps of research topics in any disciplines based on more than 260 million research outputs. And here you have a very simple example for the topic heart diseases. So you can see the relevant subtopics. At the glance, they are represented as bubbles. In this case, the subtopics are risk factors, types of diseases, and prevention. And in addition, the closeness of the areas also relates to the subject similarity between the fields, the subtopics. So in this example, risk factors is more strongly related to types of diseases than to prevention. And here we see how the website of Open Knowledge Maps look like. And I will make a live demo in a moment. But I want to highlight here that it is still a beta version at the moment, but they will hopefully release version 1.0 this year. But this also depends on the funding, as I mentioned before. And even though Open Knowledge Maps is focusing on open research outputs, both closed and open access papers are included. And they use, as you can see, two data integrations. The main data source is BASE, and BASE does stand for Bielefeld Academic Search Engine. And this search engine is operated by the Bielefeld University Library. And it is actually one of the world's most extensive search engines, especially for academic web resources. And it provides more than 240 million documents at the moment from all disciplines. And there are many different kinds of academically relevant resources included. So for example, journals and institutional repositories, digital collections, and so on. And the majority of the resources of the texts are available as full texts for free. And the second data integration is PubMed. And PubMed is a free bibliographical database for the life sciences and biomedical topics. And it is at the moment, it contains more than 32 million citations and abstracts. And what I also would like to mention here is that you can find sources and also languages in Open Knowledge Maps that are usually not indexed in commercial products like Google Scholar, for example. And now I would like to change to the browser and show you Open Knowledge Maps live. We have here an example for the certification. I have saved this knowledge maps before. And you see here at the top that I used BASE as a source, and that the 100 most relevant documents have been chosen for these knowledge maps, and 54 of them are open access. And when you look at the knowledge map itself, you see the different areas, the different subtopics. They are represented as bubbles here, and each of the subtopic is labeled by 3 terms. So you see here 3 terms: land degradation, combat desertification, and African context. And these terms, these concepts are derived from the subject headings of the papers that are within such a bubble. And then if you click on a bubble, you can zoom in, and then you see the different papers. On the right side, you see the list of all these papers with some metadata, and then you can easily click on one paper, then you get the abstract. And if the paper is open access, you usually can read it from within the interface. And you can also make annotations, but you first have to sign into this software. It's called Hypothesis. Yes, and then you can zoom out again. And if we look at the whole map again, if we take a look on the alignment, so you see if the bubbles are close to each other, their subject similarity is higher. That means closer bubbles have more in common than bubbles that are not so close to each other. But the overlapping doesn't mean that they share a paper. So it just means that they are very closely related to each other. you get a pertinent URL for the open knowledge map that you can also share with others. So here you can see the advantages of open knowledge maps. First of all, you get an overview of a research topic. You see the main areas at the glance, and that is very useful for you to identify information, useful and relevant information. And second, it also helps you to identify relevant concepts. And you probably know that it's quite a hard task to find the right language, the right terminology if you are new to a field. And open knowledge maps makes it easier for you by the labeling of these research areas with relevant concepts. And the third advantage, sorting the relevant from the irrelevant. So similar papers are clustered together, and this makes it easier for you to identify relevant content when you are, for example, searching for a very ambiguous term, or also when you would like to identify papers from one single discipline in a very broad multidisciplinary field. And last but not least, find open content. So the focus is on open content, and open access papers are highlighted. And as you have seen, most of the papers can be read within the interface. And here I would like to show you how it works in a nutshell. So first of all, Open Knowledge Maps creates the map based on the 100 most relevant documents for your search term. And what relevancy means here is defined by the two data providers. It is defined by Bayes or PubMed. But it basically means subject similarity between your search term and the documents. And then when you have the 100 most relevant documents, when they, let's say, have been delivered, OK Maps uses text similarity between the metadata of the 100 documents. So algorithm then groups those papers together that have many words in common. And then you have the visualization, and I think it's a very good starting point for your literature search. And you can also stay up to date if you limit your search to the most recent papers. In the facets, you have options to limit the search to the most recent papers. And of course, besides the advantages, there are also a few limitations. But as I told you, Open Knowledge Maps is still a beta version, and further development and improvement is on the agenda. And at the moment, the top 100 papers from the selected database are used to create the map. And this is already 10 times more that you usually get on a standard search results page. But important papers might still be missing due to this restriction. So that's obviously a problem that comes just with the limitation of a useful amount of information. In addition, only papers with an abstract can be used. Otherwise, Open Knowledge Maps has not enough content for the automatic analysis. And when you want to drill deeper at the moment into a topic, you can provide a more specific search query. And one way to do that is that you use the search terms of a subtopic, that you zoom to a subtopic of the knowledge map, and then you can do a new search with the terms that you find in these papers. And moreover, the visualization depends on the search results Open Knowledge Map gets for a given query. So it is possible, for example, that there are not enough articles on a topic. Or what is a big issue is that, that the meta quality is poor. And if the metadata quality is poor, this will have an impact, of course, on the visualization. and lead to insufficient search results. And last but not least, different languages are sort of a problem as well. Sometimes there are area titles in different languages, and at the moment it is not yet possible to exclude any languages, but this might become in the future. So to conclude, I think despite the limitations, it's a helpful tool to create a first visual overview of a research topic, to find relevant papers and to identify relevant concepts, to identify the terminology, I say, of this topic. And it's a very good starting point for your literature search, I think. As I told you, it has a few advantages, but also a few limitations. But keep in mind, it's a beta version, and I think it will be very interesting to see further development. But this really depends on the funding they will get in the future. For example, they have the vision to also integrate collaborative editing options. For example, that you could manually add papers to the knowledge map and to work on one knowledge map collaboratively in a group. And I think this would be a big improvement compared to the current situation.